Okay, so if you need more practice, well, this is one-step equations number 4 worksheet, okay? As we did in the previous worksheets, what we're doing is we're going to label the rules and then we're going to mark them on the sheet. What you might want to do is stop here and try to label them yourself so that you know which kind of rule to use. If you want to stop here, you can, and then start it back up. But I'm going to go ahead and label these. This is number 3 rule. This is number 2 rule. This is number 1 rule. This is number 3 rule. This is number 1 rule. This is number 2 rule, number 1 rule, number 2 rule, number 2 rule, and number 1 rule. Okay, now that we've got that done, now let's go ahead and go through these. This is the number 3 rule. If the letter is part of a fraction, multiply the denominator to the opposite side. So we're just going to make that little drawing for the visual, and we're going to go negative 11 times 6 is negative 66. Again, use your calculator on the ACT. Remember, you can use your calculator for everything. Better safe than sorry. If you're not absolutely positive of the number in your head, please make sure you do it on the calculator and make sure it's right. Okay, so it's a negative 66. Number 2, you're going to use the number 2 rule. If a number is not connected to a letter, add or subtract with the opposite sign to both sides. Remember, we want to get that letter on one side by itself. So we're going to go negative 3 on both sides. That's 4 equals Z. Okay, that's the answer. Now we're going to use the number 1 rule. If a number is connected to a letter, divide by that number and keep the sign the same. In this case, it's a negative 3, so we're going to say negative 3, negative 3. Now we got a positive and a negative. Remember, we're going down to these rules. We're dividing signs. So we have a negative and a positive, so it's going to equal a negative number. So we're going to have 15 divided by negative 3. That's going to be negative 5. Okay. And we're going to go back up to rule number 3. We're going to circle those two and we're going to multiply. So V equals 12. Okay, on this one, going to the number 1 rule. If a number is connected to a letter, divide by that number and keep the sign the same. So it's a positive 5. How many times does 5 go into 35? That would be 7. If you need to use a calculator, do so. Up here, this is the number 2 rule. If a number is not connected to a letter, add or subtract with the opposite sign to both sides. So we're going to go plus 4, cross that out, plus 4. Now, we're adding and subtracting signs. If we have a negative and a positive, we're going to get the difference between the two numbers, and the larger number sign wins. So 8 minus, we're going to ignore the signs for a minute. 8 minus 4 is 4, right? But then the larger number sign wins. So the larger number sign is the 8, and that's a negative, so it's going to be a negative 4. And here we go. We've got number 1 rule. Divide by 6, divide by 6. So it's going to be 8 equals H. Okay, so we're going to get this. The number is not connected to the letter, so we're just going to minus 3 to both sides. Cross that out. And negative 4 and negative 3, two negatives, you're going to add the two numbers together and the sign stays the same. So it's going to be negative 7 equals N on that one. Okay, here's another number 2 rule. We're going to go plus 5 on both sides. Cross that out. 4 plus 5 is 9, and that's the answer. Up, and here we go. The number 1, it's connected to the letter, so we got to keep the sign the same. Negative 7. Negative 7. How many times does 7 go into 49? Remember, it's a negative and positive, so the answer is going to be a negative, and that would be 7. All right, and that does it for the one-step equations number 4 worksheet.